So let's have a little discussion then, because some have asserted that the Bush administration's midnight regulations are not really rushed and they're not really secretive, and that's a contention which is being made, and that they're being properly implemented with all deliberation and proper review. Mr. Kennedy, could you respond to that assertion that they are, in fact, going through a proper regulatory process in their destruction of these rules?
Yeah, there are many, many examples. I mean, normally regulations, what the Bush administration has even said in the past in a court case over the over power plant regulations, the Bush, that I argued, we recently had Bush administration attorneys argue that it takes 8 years to pass a regulation. These regulations, many of them in many of these instances, I mean, John Walk is just, this is actually a very heavy document that appears to have hundreds of rules in it. There's supposed to be notice and comment. There's supposed to be an opportunity for the public to comment on these rules, to participate in the regulatory process. And I just don't see how it's possible to issue the public doesn't even know this at this point. So this is, if for the administration to claim that that these are going through a normal regulatory process is specious.
Well, let me go to Mr. Walk, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Homestead. Mr. Walk.
Chairman Markey, there's one very easy test to determine whether a rule is being rushed or not, and that is when and whether the rule has been lodged for review at the White House. The Office of Management and Budget has either a 60 or a 90-day review period under executive order to look at final rules. And before I came, I looked at the OMB website, and many of these rules, including ones that we know will be adopted by January 20th, have not even been sent over to the White House. They are not going to have their normal review. They're going to have a review that is by definition rushed. Now, that's a classic definition of midnight regulation to me. They are hurrying up these rules. The reason the rules were scrapped yesterday is not because they passed the November 1st deadline in the Josh Bolten memo, as the White House is now claiming. Count the number of rules that have been issued since November 1st. There are many. By their own standard, they should not issue any more rules for the rest of the administration, because as they said in the Post today, that would be a midnight regulation. They will not meet that test. This list proves it. And there are rules that the White House is looking at now that are going to be jammed out by the 20th.
All right, Mr. Homestead, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, all I know is that EPA follows the Administrative Procedures Act. John is incorrect in saying that all these rules go through OMB review. Most of them don't, because OMB only reviews rules that are considered to be significant rules, and there's an ongoing discussion between OMB and many agencies. Look, it is a historical fact that near the end of every administration, there's a lot of things that get done because people respond to deadlines. All of the issues that I know about have been in the regulatory process for years, right? And they have to go through a comment period, and the ones that John doesn't like have been out for public comment. And so the question is there something nefarious about trying to clean up the issues that you've been working on for years? Now, I don't have privy to this particular list, and so I'm a little surprised to hear John and Mr. Kennedy both accusing the administration of violating the law. You'd have to look at each one of these and say, okay, was this a rule that went out for notice and comment? Is it a rule that qualifies as a significant rule? But the idea, that, and again, there's several articles that I referred to in my written testimony where there's a natural tendency in our system for every administration to try to finish its work before it leaves office.
Let me come back to
the record is held, by the way, by the Clinton administration in terms of number of regulations or pages. Second most is the Carter administration. We'll see how this administration ends up, but there is always a slug of things that people are trying to finish up before they leave office. But if they don't follow proper procedures, they are clearly illegal.
So we'll come back to you, Mr. Walk and Mr. Kennedy. What do you have to say to Mr. Homestead?
Well, the Bush administration significantly expanded review by OMV down to guidance documents that they look at that don't meet anyone's definition of significant or impacts of $100 million or more. So you know, they've been very selective in how they follow their own rules. But I think it's clear that they, you know, that these rules will be pushed out. Now, I should say, the rules in this list, as far as I can tell, have undergone, you know, public review and notice and comment. But that, you know, that would be true of any midnight deregulation as well, by definition, unless they were flagrantly violating the APA, as Jeff said. But that still doesn't obviate the fact that these are harmful midnight deregulations that they will
But
issue.
how can you say that without looking at the regulation and seeing what it says?
I have looked at the clean air regulations, and
Well, I mean, there's that long list. You got to look at the regulations, say, is this a good one or is this a bad one?
that's why it's being entered into the record.
Good.
And Mr. Kennedy, do you have any comment you'd like to add at this point?
I think Mr. Walk has covered it.
Okay, great. Thank you.